Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Get Wedding Ready with me, Wura Manola. How are you guys doing? It's been a minute that I've been on my channel. For those of you who follow me on Instagram, you know that I had a baby, but that's another video for another day. This video is going to be about what's going on right now, COVID-19 and how it affects your wedding. And I'm going to give you top tips on how to successfully postpone your wedding, and I'm also going to throw in some advice to make sure that your wedding is still successfully planned and nothing is left through the cracks. So this video is for any bride who has postponed her wedding, who's looking to postpone her wedding, who's in the process of postponing her wedding, and someone who's confused and doesn't even know whether or not they should postpone their wedding. This video is for you. I want to say that my heart goes out to all the brides out there during this time. Wedding planning itself is already so stressful, so I can't imagine the stress and what you're going through during this period. I just want to stay positive, stay prayerful, and just stay hopeful. Your wedding is going to be beautiful. Before we get into this video, I just want to say please subscribe to my channel. We're almost at 10,000 subscribers and I want to get there with your help. All right, now let's get into the video. So the first thing I want to talk about is how this situation affects your wedding. I am not trying to alarm you, make you more anxious or worried. I'm simply talking about this so that you can have a deeper understanding and be better prepared. A lot of people out there are just moving their dates. They've possibly agreed and gotten vendors on board. They're not thinking about things like the wedding dress might take a lot longer to come. So if you move your weddings and get your vendors and you haven't thought about, how long your wedding dress is going to take, and you find out that you might not get your wedding dress in time, that can be devastating. So that's the kind of thing I'm going to talk about so that you are better prepared. The first way in which this affects your wedding is obviously your wedding date. Your wedding date is going to obviously change, and that's going to change a lot of things. That's changing your whole wedding plan. It affects your venue, your vendors, your wedding plans, every single thing. I'm going to give you advice as we go along this video on how to manage that, okay? The second thing that it affects is obviously your venue. If you reached out to your venue and you've moved to a new date, then great. If you've not moved to a new date and you're in talks with your venue, or you haven't even approached your venue, make sure you go to your contract, and every single thing you have on your contract should stay the same. The only thing that changes is your new date. Why I'm saying this is because venues have off-season and on-seasons, and that's when they quote higher prices or lower prices. So the wedding date that you might have secured might have been cheaper than the new date that you're getting. And if it was cheaper, hopefully your venue is kind enough to keep everything the same and not charge you more. But just be aware of that you might be paying a little bit more money if you get a sought after date. And obviously, because everyone is now postponing and trying to get dates, the venues might be charging. Just be aware that might be a factor. Make sure everything from your linens, every single thing is in your contract, because a lot of people again are postponing. The venues might start getting a bit overwhelmed, and all the things that they promised you might not be able to deliver. Make sure that every single thing in your contract, as I said, it stays the same and it's only the date that is moved. So the next way in which this affects your wedding is your wedding vendors. Because you moved your wedding date, you have to check and make sure that all your wedding vendors are available on the new date. You have to go back to all your contracts and make sure you know what you've signed. You shouldn't lose your deposit because you're postponing and you're not canceling. I'll come to how you manage your vendors later on. The next way in which this affects your wedding is obviously your wedding plans. You can't go wedding dress shopping, you can't go cake tasting, you can't go food tasting, you can't go see your decor items. I advise you to try and do everything as virtual as you can. The next way in which this affects your wedding is your wedding dress. I was watching a YouTuber called Jamie Wolfer who said that 80% of wedding dresses are made in China. I already have a bride who's based in Canada and who cannot get her wedding dress. So know that because of what's happening right now, there's going to be a backlog in delivery and production. So just bear that in mind as you're moving your wedding dates. Have a contingency plan, like where else can you get your wedding dress, because there's nothing more horrible than getting a new date for your wedding, postponing everything and everyone's on board and your wedding dress cannot be made in time. So make a backup plan for a backup wedding dress just just in case. Another way this impacts your wedding is obviously decor. A lot of decor items come from China. There might be a delay, there might be a backlog, so you might be looking at getting decor items where you're based, which might be more expensive, but just have a backup plan for that. Or you might have to do a little bit of DIY or rely on some other options, but please just bear that in mind. The next way this affects your wedding is obviously your honeymoon. You would have to move your honeymoon, so don't forget to move your honeymoon when you move your wedding. I doubt anyone will forget that. And the next way it affects your wedding is obviously delivery service, like if you bought things on Etsy or Amazon. Amazon is actually pretty good at the moment, but I know they're prioritizing things that people need, because I'm seeing a lot of things for a month's time delivery. So just be aware that anything you've bought for your wedding, might be wedding jewelry, wedding shoes, anything, might take a little bit longer to come. Another way this affects your wedding is money. So unfortunately, some people might lose their deposit depending on if they can't get the venue, if they can't get a vendor. Some people might lose money in this process, so I just want you to be aware of that, and I will talk to you about budgeting later on. Hi guys, so I'm currently editing this video and I wanted to give you guys 2 more points that I think are really important. So the first point is, depending on when you move your wedding to, you might be moving your wedding to from a spring or summer wedding to winter wedding, and as a result you might need to change obviously your wedding colors, your wedding theme, because obviously they're 2 different seasons. By all means you can keep everything the same. Hey, rules are meant to be broken, but that's just something I wanted you to bear in mind, that you moving your wedding dates might affect your decor. And also when it comes to decor, the flowers are in season during spring or summer might not be in season throughout the year, or during the winter, so that's something that you need to bear in mind. The second thing to bear in mind when lockdown is lifted, I don't see people rushing back to large gatherings ASAP. You might be looking at having a more intimate wedding than a larger wedding, depending on when you're thinking of postponing your wedding to. So that's just something that I wanted you to bear in mind. Be open to the possibility of having a more intimate rather than a massive wedding that you plan to have. The last thing I wanted to add is, for those of you who are planning to have destination weddings, is you might want to really consider when you postpone your wedding to. After this lockdown, we don't know the situation. We don't know if people are going to be willing to travel, if they'd want to travel. I know that a couple of people who have trips at the in autumn, like September, October, already rethinking them. So if you have a destination wedding, this is something that you might want to reconsider. But yes, have a real good think about that. Yeah, so that's it. Back to the video. Alright, so now that we've seen how it affects your wedding and you've had an idea and you're aware of everything, let's go into how to successfully postpone your wedding. So the first thing you should be doing, if you've not done this, is to make a decision to postpone. I know a lot of people are still out there thinking, should I postpone, should I not postpone? Especially if you're getting married in the next 3 months, you have to get in there and make a decision to postpone ASAP. Stay informed on what's going on in the news, speak to your parents and decide, to postpone your wedding. And now I'm talking about people probably getting married in like June and July, because anyone getting married in April and May should be postponing their wedding, regardless. So if you're watching this and you're getting married in April and May and you've not postponed your wedding, you need to start getting on it. But this is people getting married in the summer period, thinking about postponing their wedding. You would have to make that decision. You have to start making plans in case you need to move your wedding. The next thing that you need to do when postponing your wedding is, if you have wedding insurance, is to see what you are covered, so that when you approach your venue, your vendors, if you do lose any money, you know that you will be covered. So that's for people who have wedding insurance. People who don't have wedding insurance, a lot of wedding companies are not putting the coronavirus or COVID-19 in their contract anymore, so you might want to check that out. But I know because it's happening now, and that's the point of insurance, it's like on something unseeable, not something that's happening now. The next thing you want to be doing is reaching out to your venue. A lot of venues will be getting this and possibly will be reaching out to you. Now you need to ask your venue for available dates for the later part of this year, whenever you're planning to postpone your wedding to, based on discussion you've had with your family. The clever thing to do is you should get a couple of available dates. Don't just get one date. The reason why I'm saying this, and I'll come to this, it has to do with your vendors. So get about 3 dates if you can, and try and hold them on first option basis. First option basis means that you have held that date, and if any other couple comes, they would have to be held on second option, which means that you have the first say. Probably give you like 24 hours or 48 hours to decide whether you want the venue or not, but that's really good, rather than someone else going to ask about the venue and taking the venue under your nose. So the next thing you should be doing when you're thinking of postponing your wedding is send an email to all your guests. It's preferable to send an email once you have more details like the date, because of the uncertainty and how long it might get to secure that new date. speaking to your vendors, etc. You want to send a correspondence to your guests, letting them know that your wedding has been postponed and more information will be sent ASAP on your wedding website or via email. You need to let them know how to expect that information. So you have to let your guests know so that they would start planning. Okay, we know we're going to move a flight, we're going to move a hotel, etc. Even if they don't have a date, they're already being prepared. You have to send that ASAP. Next thing you want to do now is to look at all your vendor contracts and make sure that you understand what you have signed. A lot of us sign contracts and we don't look at that fine print. Please read your contracts, make sure you're familiar with what you signed, reach out to your vendors, and then you can have a conversation with them so that if your vendor says, oh, didn't you see my contract that postponing doesn't give you a deposit back, you're not alarmed. Okay, you're prepared. So you go to your vendors and test your first option date. So you have 3 dates. Test one date with all your vendors and see who's available, who's not available. So if you test the first date with your vendors, get everyone who is available on that date, and anyone who's not available, then you can say, oh, what about this date, or what about the third date? Okay, so at the end of the day, you want to have a majority of vendors available on one particular date. It might not be all, it might be all if you're lucky, and then you can go back to your venue and say, okay, I want this date. So once everything is good and ready to go, because now you've gotten a new date, you should be sending an email or updating your website, whichever way to choose, and letting your guests know your new date. It's so important as well to give them as much information to help, because it's not convenient for the guests. Even if everyone understands and know what's going on at the moment, you want to make sure you say it in a really nice way. Send something like, love is patient, love is not cancelled, you know, just something that makes everyone go, oh, we'll come to your wedding, you know. So send out something really nice, and you know, update them with the wedding. Even if things stay the same like a wedding venue, you have to still put that correspondence on there and treat it like a new invitation, so that people don't come back saying, where is your wedding? Make sure on your new invitation you have your wedding dates, your times, every single thing. Even if it all stays the same, make sure you put it there so that everyone knows what to expect and no one is coming to you asking you for any bit of information. You've sent an email to your guests, so you've covered everything. You've moved your wedding. Woohoo! You want to update your wedding budget. You need to make sure that you update your wedding budget with any losses. If there's any vendor deposits you've lost, it has to be on your budget so you know how much money you've lost. If anything has increased, for example, if your venue or your vendor say, okay, this period is a high peak period and this is how much I charge, you need to update your budget with that. Don't just leave your budget sitting like that and think everything is being postponed and it's staying the same. Make sure you update your budget. The next thing you want to be doing is to amend your wedding checklist, because timings would have changed. If you're planning to get married in May and your new date is in September or October, a lot of things are going to move. You know, your wedding dress shopping is going to move to later on. Everything's going to move. So update your wedding checklist so that you are still counted down to your wedding appropriately. Yes, so the last tip I have for you is to continue with wedding planning. And for some people, take a break. Take a 1 week break, 2 week break, maybe even wait a little bit for all this to blow over and continue wedding planning, because obviously the wedding plan might remind you of the wedding that you haven't had yet and you've had to postpone. I just want to implore you guys to please stay positive. People are actually getting sick, people are dying, so a lot worse things are happening. The only thing you've had to move is your wedding. That's all my tips on how to successfully postpone your wedding, making sure you don't leave any bits of information out, and how the whole thing affects your wedding so that you're better prepared, and when it's time to start wedding planning, you obviously have everything ready to go. So the next thing I want to say is, to everyone who's watching this video now, who might be affected, who's confused, who's not postponed their wedding yet, I need help. I'm offering 25% off my services and my checklist planner. So please contact me at wura@manolalocks.com if you need a checklist planner. If you need a budget template, I've got that as well, and that's free. Hit me up and I'll send that to you. If you need someone who can help you from a professional standpoint, reach out to your venue or vendors and coordinate all of that, I'm happy to help you. So send me an email at wura@manolalocks.com and I would help you with that. So thank you guys so much for coming by this video. This video was very, very hard to film. This is my second time filming this video, but I just thought I have to film this video for you guys so that you guys know what to do. All right guys, thank you guys. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and most importantly, please comment below and let me know if you guys have postponed your wedding, you're postponing it to what you've done, what has worked, what hasn't worked, some of your pain points, anything, so that other brides can come and see that they're not alone and you can get a conversation going on and we can all encourage each other. So thank you guys so much for coming by my YouTube channel, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.